Liberia Senate.
The Liberian Senate, Capitol Building, Capitol Hill, Monrovia, Liberia. 31st day sitting, second session, 55th Legislature of the Republic of Liberia, Tuesday, June 24, 2025. Agenda, oral business. 1, call to order. 2, devotion. 3, roll call. 4, reading adoption of the agenda. 5, unfinished business. A, briefing for the joint committee comprising the committees on public works and rural development and internal affairs, governance, and reconciliation regarding the deteriorating state of downtown Monrovia and the maintenance of the Palm Grove Cemetery. B, briefing for the joint committee comprising the committees on judicial, human rights, peace and petitions, and commerce, trade and industry regarding an alleged issue of rising prices in commodities. 6, report from standing committees. A, report from the joint committee on commerce, trade and industry and judiciary, human rights, claims and petitions, again on the increase in prices of essential commodities. B, briefing from the joint committee on judiciary, human rights, claims and petitions on the following: an act to establish a time frame Act of 2024 at the Joseph Relief Ministerial Complex, and an act to amend Chapter 4, Section 4.2, 4.3, and 4.4 of the Criminal Procedures Law, Chapter 2 of the Liberian Code of Laws revised, status of limitation. C, briefing from the Joint Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights, Claims and Petitions, and Labor on the Decent Work Act. D, briefing from the Joint Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights, Claims and Petitions, and Executive on an act to amend Chapter 12, Chapter 1, Part 1, Executive Law, Liberian Code of Law revised by creating Subchapter E to be known as Presidential Transition. B, briefing from the Joint Committee on Foreign Affairs, Judiciary, Ways, Means and Finance on an act to ratify the protocol to the African chapter on human and people's rights on the establishment of an African court on human and people rights, and an act to ratify the establishment of the International Renewable Energy Agency in Marina. F, briefing from the Committee on Education and Judiciary on the following: an act to establish the Painesville Community College and create a chapter within the city of Painesville, Republic of Liberia, and an act for the establishment of Jibo Vocational and Technical College, Liberia County. G, briefing from Joint Committee on Youth and Sports, Education and Judiciary on an act to establish the Liberia Technical and Vocational Education and Training Commission. H, briefing from the Committee on Defense, Security, Intelligence and Veteran Affairs and Judiciary on an act to establish the Liberia Capital Police, LCP 2024. Briefing. I, briefing from the Committee on Public Works and Rural Development on zoning law, Liberia 2024. J, briefing from the Joint Committee on Internal Affairs and Judiciary on an act to establish the Masterville Township in Tualaken, Yapo, Tigerick District, Liberia County, and an act to create the Innerville City, Kedipo, County, Kedipo, Administrative District in Liberia County, an act to create Takeken City in Kedipo Administrative District, also Liberia County, an act to repeal Section 4 of the Act creating the City of Proper Sport and to create in lieu thereof the Commonwealth Administrative District hereinafter referred to as the Commonwealth District of Grand Kidman. An act to create a municipal corporation of Yapa City, Riverside County, and Grand 8 of Jackson. K, briefing from the Joint Committee on Judiciary, Human Rights, Judiciary and Ways Means Finance and Budget on the National Rent Control Act. I refrain from the Joint Committee on Ways, Means, Finance and Budget, Maritime and Judiciary on an act to amend Chapter 8, Section 806 of the Liberian Revenue Code to include the merged and other vessel-related income as taxable resources. And refrain from the Joint Committee on Banking and Currency, Agriculture and Judiciary on an act to create the Agricultural Enterprise Development Bank of Liberia, and refrain from the Committee on Labor on the work permit issue. 7. Business on President's Text. A communication from Senator Nimini T.H. Batikwa of Grand Creek County making a request for the termination of Atlanta Resources concession agreement in Grand Creek. B. Communication from Senator Amara M. County of Babu County requesting plenary give attention on an issue in Central Economic 2 that warrants urgent, thoughtful review and investment incentive. C. Communication from Senator Boto Cannon of Babu County request for legislative inquiry into labor irregularities affecting local government officials. The communication from Senator Francis F. Topo of River G County request for annual compliance report on the implementation of Section 8, Section B of the 2024 National Budget Law. E. Appearance of the following before the Senate as a committee of the whole. Honorable Dr. J. Alexander Muta, Minister of Agriculture, and Honorable Rura Mirat, Managing Director of the Forestry Development Authority FDA, regarding elephant invasion in Babu County. 8. Another business non-adjournment. President Pro-Tempore and Resigning Officer, distinguished senators, the reading of the draft agenda for today's sitting.
Distinguished colleagues, you heard the reading of the draft agenda for today's sitting. What is the word of pleasure? Senator Quinn.
Senior colleague, have been listening to today's agenda. I move if I can continue a second, that the agenda be open for today's discussion.
It has been moved and seconded that the agenda for today's sitting be open for discussion. Are you ready to vote? All in favor say yea. Against? Any intervention? Senator G. Smith.
Thank you, Chair. Distinguished Senators, President observed that number 5B and 6A, I think there's some similarity with the component. That's not possible.
5B. Briefing. 6A. Secretary, do we have the report from the Committee on Commerce?
No report.
So we have removed 6A, and then we'll do the briefing at on 5B. So we'll remove 6A. Any other intervention? We're doing intervention, motion to adopt. All in favor say yea.
Yeah.
Against? Secretary Senate.
This is on President's text. Communication from Senator Nimini T.H. Batikwa of Grand Creek County.
Liberian Senate, Office of the Chair on Concession and Investment, June 24, 2025. Madam Germany Kanda Lawrence, President Pro Tempore of the Senate, in section, Capital Building, Capital Hill, Monrovia, Liberia. Dear Madam President Pro Tempore, distinguished colleagues, in section. Reference. Request for the termination of Atlantic Resources Concession Agreement, Grand Crew County. I have the honor to convey my confidence and herewith bring to the attention of the Senate Plenary the abandonment of Atlantic Resources Concession operations in Grand Crew County by the company. The concession agreement between Atlantic Resources and the government of Liberia was signed in 2009, allowing the company to conduct logging operations in both Grand Crew and San County. Madam Pro Tempore and distinguished colleagues, it becomes imperative that I inform this August body that Atlantic Resources Liberia Limited concession operations in Grand Crew County came to a standstill since 2016. This action of the company to abandon its concession operations in the county demonstrates the unwillingness and diminished interest of the concession company to operate in the county. Despite many communications and meetings between the company and the county authorities, which were intended to encourage the company to resume operations, all is to no avail. In view of the above, I herewith request that the Liberian Senate take decisive action by terminating the operation of Atlantic Resources concession in Grand Crew County through the ratification of its concession. In the county, without giving other interested investors access to the forest in the county. Madam President Pro Tempore and distinguished colleagues, while I look forward to your timely action in this bill, please accept the sentiments of my highest esteem and best wishes. Kind regards, sincerely yours, Millie T.H. Badford Senior, Senator Grand Crew County and Chairman, Senate Committee on Concessions and Investment. Madam President Pro Tempore.
Distinguished colleagues, you've heard the reading of a communication from Senator Patrick with a request to terminate the Atlantic Resources Concession Agreement in Grand Crew County. What is your will and pleasure? I won't wait for you. Senator Patrick, you want to make a motion on your termination letter?
Okay.
Senator Finley.
Thank you, Pro Tem. Pro Tem, distinguished colleagues, if I can obtain a second that said communication is open for discussion and that the author be given 2 minutes to brief the plenary.
Open for discussion?
Okay, but that's
It's been moved and seconded that the communication be open for discussion. The author be given 2 minutes. Before it goes to committee to report one.
She didn't say committee, she said open for discussion.
Open for discussion. Are you ready to vote?
Already.
I'm ready to right?
Yeah, amendment is that I want to hear one already for Senator Dillon, and then I'll be able to respond.
Motion.
I think the consensus is to take it to the committee.
Of course.
And if the author 2 minutes to speak. So, that concession, the concession chair who will.
I will amend the motion by saying that said communication be sent to agriculture, judiciary, and concession.
And the legal committee.
The legal judiciary, that is a legal matter. It's a contract. Yeah.
All right, without restate the motion, I read it. All in favor say yea. Against. Senator Basikwa, you have 2 minutes.
Madam Presiding, distinguished colleagues, thank you very much for your reception to my request. As I said, for your information, Atlantic Resource Limited, the local government came to Liberia and requested for a concession agreement with the government of Liberia to operate E-Grain Crew and signed off. That request was granted, concession was signed, consummated in 2009. They started their operation. Since 2016, that company led to abandon the concession and left the county. All efforts by the county administration, the Great Legislative Caucus, to encourage them to continue their operation is all to no avail. That is why, and left the forest unattended to the resources that are for the people of the county that should be used for the improvement of their lives, their condition, just abandoned. The Grain Crew, that entire site is completely inaccessible now. Because that's the forest that was assisting the people to give them access to terms of rule and order. Today, that entire place is completely closed. We've come to this August body having demonstrated, having demonstrated enough evidence of their less interest that indeed they are no longer interested to continue the operation. We come to you to create indulgence, to please help us de-ratify that agreement so that interested investors that are knocking on the doors of government and the county authorities can be given access to come to Grain Crew, and the parts of Southeast that also were included in the concession agreement. Just as short, as simple as our request is, people of Grain Crew really need your assistance by canceling that contract so that other investors can be invited to help the people of Grain Crew. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Basikwa. Please act accordingly. Senator Senate.
The President's deck is a communication.
Which committee is the lead for?
Judiciary.
Senator Amram Cumming from Babu County.
The Liberian Senate, Office of the Chair on Public, on Audit and Account, June 20, 2025. Honorable Yomi Kanga Lawrence, President Pro Tempore. The Liberian Senate in section, Capitol Building, Monrovia, Liberia. Subject: request for plenary to review the implementation of the 25% local procurement provision for Liberian-owned businesses. Dear Madam Pro Tempore and distinguished colleagues, I present my compliments and write to respectfully request that the Honorable Liberian Senate conducts a comprehensive review and subsequent public hearing on the implementation of Section 4.4 of the Small Business Empowerment Act of 2014, which mandates that at least 25% of all public procurement for goods and services in the national budget be allocated to Liberian-owned macro, small, and medium enterprises. This law's legislative intent is to increase Liberian-owned businesses' participation in the national economy, stimulate domestic production, create jobs, and build a resilient private sector. However, a decade after its passage, there is insufficient data in the public domain to determine whether this provision is being enforced, and if the intended beneficiaries of the Liberian-owned businesses are indeed gaining from public procurement opportunities. To that end, I'm requesting that the Minister of Finance and Development Planning provide a detailed report on 1, the overall value and percentage of public procurement awarded to Liberian-owned businesses over the last 5 fiscal years. 2, the classification of beneficiary businesses by sector, size, and ownership. 3, the list of entities in compliance and non-compliant. 4, mechanisms in place to track, verify, and enforce the 25% clause. 5, challenges encountered in implementation. That the Senate organizes a public hearing to 1, receive testimonies from stakeholders, including the Minister of Finance and Development Planning, Public Procurement and Concession Commission, PDCC, the Minister of Commerce and Industry, and representative bodies of the Liberian private sector. 2, assess the structural and policy barriers preventing compliance. And 3, determine legislative or regulatory reform needed to ensure full enforcement and transparency. This review and hearing will not only promote oversight and transparency in implementing this law, but also reaffirm the Senate's commitment to laws critical to empowering Liberian entrepreneurs to be participants, not spectators, in their economy and contribute to national development. Thank you for your leadership, and I look forward to your consideration and swift action in convening this necessary hearing. Please accept, Honorable Pro Tempore and distinguished colleagues, the assurances of my highest esteem. Yours sincerely, Amara N. Connie, Senator Barbara County, for the President of the Council.
Distinguished colleagues, you've heard the communication from Senator Connie. What is your will and pleasure? The reading of the communication from Senator Connie. Senator Taylor.
My brother, distinguished colleagues, having listened to the reading of the communication from our colleague, Senator Amara M. Connie of Buffalo County, with a request for plenary's attention on an essential economic tool that warrants urgent, thoughtful review and investment incentive. I will move that the communication be received and accepted, refer to the committees on investment, waste, means and finance, and commerce, and that these committees report within 2 weeks, and that the author of this communication be given 2 minutes to give an overview. I so move.
Without restating the motion, I ready to vote. There was a second? Okay. Without restating the motion, I ready to vote. All in favor say yea. Are we voting for the motion? Yeah. All in favor say yea. Against? Senator Connie, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam President. Distinguished colleagues, my letter is self-explanatory. We have several instruments that we, in the legislature, enact to empower our people to be participants in the Liberian economy. This Small Business Act that allocates about 25% of the goods and services budget in our budget to Liberian small and medium-sized Liberian-owned businesses. And we're talking about somewhere around $60 million annually. It's a lot of money that when pushed to Liberian-owned businesses will not only stimulate our domestic economy, but will empower Liberians to become middle class and employ more Liberians. That's the crux of the law. So my letter is proposing to this august body to please review the effectiveness of this law, to see if it is being implemented, to see if our people, our small business people, are benefiting from it. And if there are challenges and bottlenecks, structural-wise, what the appropriate agencies are doing to help them. So I want you to please look at this, because this is an important part of empowerment. Most of the other laws that we have that are intended to empower business people through the incentives we give to multinational companies are ineffective. So the budget is something we make, it's something that we have control over. So I am appealing to you, Madam Pro Tem and plenary, to put a team together to do this review before the midterm review of the budget, so that we can push some of these resources to our Liberian-owned businesses to stimulate the economy. Thank you.
So there was a motion to send it to the committee, but the Senator Connor is appealing for us to put a team together for review. Is that what you're requesting?
Or team as a committee, the appropriate committee.
Communication from
Senator Potokana, also of Barber County. Senator Adamdekana Lawrence, President of Temporary Liberian Senate, Capitol Building, Capitol Hill, Monrovia, Liberia, June 23, 2025. Subject: request for a legislative inquiry into labor irregularities affecting local government officials. Dear temporary and distinguished colleagues, kindest regards and sincere compliments. I would like to bring to your attention a matter of grave concern affecting the welfare and dignity of members of our local government, particularly chiefs, commissioners, and other administrative officials across the country. For the past 12 months, a significant number of these local government officials have reportedly not received salaries in several counties. These public servants who are vital to maintaining peace, order, and the rule of law in rural communities have been left without pay, despite consistently performing their duties under challenging conditions. Equally disturbing is the fact that in few instances where salaries are being paid, the amount received by some individual is below the national minimum wage threshold, with some reportedly receiving less than $65 per month. This is a direct violation of the Decent Work Act and represents a form of labor exploitation that must be urgently addressed. In light of these serious concerns, I respectfully recommend that the Honorable Liberian Senate, through its relevant committees, extend an invitation to the Ministry of Internal Affairs, the Civil Service Agency, and the Ministry of Finance and Development Planning to appear and provide comprehensive clarification on the following. 1. the status of salaries for local government officials over the past year. 2, what measures are being taken to rectify salary arrears and ensure timely payments moving forward. 3, justification for the underpayment or setting officials in contradiction of the Decent Work Act. And 4, plans to align compensation practices with that those who serve our country at a grassroots level are not marginalized nor exploited. The current state of affairs, if left unaddressed, undermines our commitment to good governance and social justice. I trust that this matter will receive your urgent attention. Yours sincerely, Senator Boto Kane, Apple County. Presiding officer.
Distinguished colleagues, that was a communication from Senator Boto Kane raising concerns over irregularities in the labor sector. I think as we're closing on the work permit issue, there is an excellent concern from Senator Kane. And I would like a motion, a very strong motion, to have this treated in the same manner. Senator Jala.
Madam President, I will move the second that the communication eloquently made by our distinguished senator from Apollo County be received, sent over to the Committee on Labor, and that the proponent be given 2 minutes to throw under light on the communication just read by her, represented by her that was just read. So moved.
They have been moved and seconded that the communication is read be sent to the Committee on Labor, and as Senator Kane be given 2 minutes. Are you ready to vote?
Ready.
Senator Taylor, Senator Daba, Senator Finley.
Mr. Movement,
Who wants to take Senator Daba?
Mr. Movement, I was ready to vote. If you refer this matter to the Committee on Internal Affairs and Governance, because they're more related to local government officials, which is not a private sector thing. So I'll be ready to vote. If rather than the Labor Committee, the Committee on Internal Affairs and Governance, I'll be ready to vote.
My disposition is Labor Internal Affairs.
Mr. Movement, approach the presiding. Approach the presiding.
Sometimes you know when you say I said. Sometimes I know what I said, but I said.
All right, that's from Senator Babla and then Senator Finley.
Thank you, Madam Pro Tem. I yield to Senator Taylor. It was the same concern I had.
Okay, Senator Taylor.
Madam Pro Tem, distinguished colleagues, I'll be ready to vote if the distinguished senator from Lofa would accept to add civil service as well as Ministry of Finance, because both of them have to do with structure of salaries.
So which committee?
Ways, Means, Finance, and Autonomous Agency.
Yeah. Move it.
Let
Which
me-
means the finance, I will find the money.
In the interest of experience, I will take one of the two of his choice. What's your preference?
Ways and Means. Because it has to do with
You two ways and means.
So the internal affairs and ways, means and finance. So report one. So report one. Move it to report in 2 weeks.
Yes.
Within 2 weeks.
Within.
Okay, with all that clear, I will to vote. All in favor, say yea.
Mr. President.
Say that comment 2 minutes.
For them distinguished colleagues, this came to my attention when I went in the county last week. I visited a district called Golala, where there is no road, only motorbikes roads. Like, I met with the chiefs and elders and asked them how are their conditions. The chiefs told me that they are only working, but they are not on salaries. So it came to my mind. I said, well, during the George Weah time, we and others advocated for this. So up to now, as a rescue government, the chiefs are not on payroll. So it was surprising to me. Then the commissioner, the relieving commissioners, they said they are receiving $65 US per month. He doubted me. I told him, let me see the message. He showed me the message. He said, this over 1 year I've not been to town because the money is very small. And another thing again, some employees been receiving their salaries, like for the commissioner and some others, they were receiving $137 and Liberian dollars 11,000. But this time around, I saw some checks done. They received $80 and 6,000 Liberian dollars. I asked them why. They said the bankers told them that the ministry is responsible. I asked one of them, have you been to the ministry? He said, yeah, I went there. But then the HR told me that we cutting salaries. I said, but we have to pay attention to these people, because if you are making $150, then they cut you up to $80. It's not good for us. So I told the wise, I said, let me bring it to the attention of the body. We can call on the relevant authorities to see how best we can address this, because it's very serious. You making $65 a month, I don't know how we class that. And we know the Decent Work Act that was enacted in 2015. We know what it says to us. And the Minister of Finance said he was going to elevate for our salaries minimum $150, but then we are still receiving, our people are still receiving $65, $80. That came to my attention, so I just want to bring that to you people. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Committee and the comment. Second.
Communication from Senator
That's an issue all over the country.
S. Dover II of River J. County, June 24, 2025. The President pro tempore, the Liberian Senate, Capitol Building, Monrovia, Liberia. Subject: request for annual compliance report on the implementation of Section 8, subsection P of the 2024 National Budget Law. Dear Honorable President pro tempore, I present my respectful compliments and write a request to your honorable office in formal communication to the Public Procurement and Concessions Commission, PPCC, for submission of the annual compliance report regarding the implementation of Section 8, subsection P of the 2024 National Budget Law. This provision of the national budget mandates that not less than 25% of all public procurement of goods and services, including capital expenditures, be reserved for Liberian businesses as an affirmative action measure. Furthermore, it obliges the PPCC to report quarterly to the legislature on progress made in fulfilling its legal requirement. To date, and based on available legislative records and committee reports, there has been no formal submission of these mandated reports. Its absence significantly impedes the Senate's constitutional duty to exercise oversight, ensure compliance with the national budget law, and assess the efficacy of government policies intended to empower Liberian businesses. Given that the 2024 fiscal year has now closed, I respectfully request that the Senate formally demand the consolidated annual report for budget year 2024 from the PPCC, including a summary of all public procurements awarded to Liberian businesses, evaluation of the total percentage of such awards relative to total procurement, a list of challenges or constraints encountered in implementing the 25% provision, recommendation for improved enforcement power. Such a report is critical to ensuring transparency, promoting accountability, and enabling legislature to take informed steps toward supporting Liberian entrepreneurship in public procurement processes. I trust in your leadership and look forward to your favorable consideration and action on this matter. With sentiments of high esteem, sincerely, Senator Francis Sedi Togo II, Senator Riverton County, Republic of Liberia. Presiding officer.
Distinguished colleagues, we heard the reading of the communication from Senator Togo making a request for annual compliance report on the national budget. What is the will and pleasure? Senator Togo, on your own motion. Any motion for this communication from Senator Togo? Senator Togo, make your own motion.
What do you want? So we thank Senator Togo for his communication. Having listened to the reading of this communication, I move that the communication be received by plenary, sent to the committee on public accounts, the report in 2 weeks, and we give the proponent 2 minutes to expound on this communication.
No second.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. But there's a request for the Senate to make a request for annual compliance through legal committee to do it. It's just a report requesting for annual compliance report.
Yes, so we going to mandate the Senate Secretary to approve that request to the Senate Secretary so that he can make the request on behalf of the Senate.
So it has been moved and seconded that the Senate should approve the request for Senator Togo to request for annual compliance report. and Senator Topo be given 2 minutes to say something. With that clear, I raise the vote. All in favor say yea. Senator Topo.
Thank you, Madam President, distinguished Senator. Colleagues, when we passed the 2024 national budget, what made news at the time was that the budget law. And I just hope the media, as listened to me, should take interest in the budget law. It's not the numbers in the budget law. In the budget law, section 8P, this Senate or this legislature, in the interest of making sure that Liberians are not spectators in the economy, especially where we are spending taxpayer money, we decided to take an affirmative action. Apparently some of us are forgotten. That was a milestone, but it was not too important for many people in Liberia. Today we come and argue that Liberians are not being considered. Liberians are not partaker of the economy, but this legislature passed a law that 25% of our budget on goods and services and that of capital expenditure, at least 25%, 25% should be reserved only for Liberian-owned businesses. That would mean that if you remove the about 300 million from the 738 billion budget we passed here, which constitute a compensation, the rest of the amount, or a significant amount of that, should be around 400 million. Of that 400 million, we are saying about 100 million of that amount should be reserved for contracts, procurement of all services and goods for Liberian businesses. Imagine if that was done, we'll be seeing a lot of Liberian businesses being empowered. To my recollection, Madam President, distinguished Senator, we are hearing a lot. Most of the institutions did not implement that for our own intelligence. And this is a form of distrust, non-compliance. That is why we're asking that this plenary demand, because it's a decision that we took. We need to check and see. We cannot pass a budget law in the interest of Liberian businesses, and yet we are not seeing the contract given to them. I give an example. Most of all of RCT projects, services on construction and other things, vehicles and so forth, were given to foreign businesses. This is not fair for Liberian businesses. That is why I'm bringing this to our attention, that we need the PBCC to give a report as to whether that law was implemented. And going forward, again, I want to beg the plenary that we should see the need to enforce it further, because we cannot have Liberian taxpayer money and we are giving it to foreigners. Even in this country where foreign investment enter this country, where in foreign loans, even grain, even money that we as Liberians are going to pay back, when they bring it to the country, they force us, or I would say coerce us, to take foreign companies. Then what become of our own taxpayer money that we collect? Why can't we ensure that Liberian benefit? That is the crux of my request, and after so is done, we reserve further argument. I yield.
So what is the time? Okay, Senate, please take note. We want to see a copy of that letter. Mr. Patrick Morgan.
This is the President's Dex. Appearance. Senate as a committee of the whole. Honorable Dr. J. Alexander Nuta, Minister of Agriculture, and Honorable Rudolph Mirab, Managing Director of the Forestry Development Authority, regarding elephant invasion in Babulu County.
Yeah, Sarah, you want to? Yeah.
I have previous information.
Okay.
Distinguished senators, Honorable Temple, as we study today, by inviting the Minister of Agriculture and the Managing Director of the Forestry Agency. We were here this morning at the time we mentioned, but it coincided with us going to sign the book of condolence at the executive pavilion, and so they spent the whole day. So they came and they flew.
The FDA is here, I think Agriculture Ministry left. So, FDA can come and brief us. And then, or maybe we can defer all the other briefings on the agenda for Thursday. Is the Agriculture Minister here? The Agriculture Minister is there? Call the FDA. Yeah, the Agriculture Minister is in the building. Over there, she come.